December 19th. On December 19th, there was a picture of a niece, a Christmas elf, in the Magic Advent Calendar. He had long white hair and a white beard. He was wearing a red cloak and a red pointed hat. On his chest there was a large silver cross set with a red stone. It was Mama's turn to read. Melchior. A procession was speeding through Asia Minor one day toward the end of the 4th century. They traveled across the high plains of Phrygia and past some salt lakes where the birds can stand on the water. On their long journey, they encountered bears, wolves, and jackals, and when a wolf or a bear came running towards them, they always managed to step aside by 1 or 2 weeks and avoid the wild animal. They climbed up through a pass in the high mountain range of Pamphylia, which stretches from the east to west along the Mediterranean coast. A few thousand meters above sea level, they saw a figure dressed in green. It was a tall man, sitting like a living landmark at the point where the road began tilting towards the Mediterranean Sea. As soon as they noticed the man in green, Caspar and Balthazar began waving and tried to get past the sheep. "Well, who's that?" said Elizabeth. "He must certainly be with us." The stranger rose and threw his arms around Caspar and Balthazar. "The circle is complete," he announced solemnly. "My name is Melchior, third wise man and king of Egriscula." Then Elizabeth understood what he meant by the circle being complete, for now all 3 kings of the Orient were together. "You have such strange names. You're wise men, kings of the Orient, Caspar, Balthazar, and Melchior. We even have more names. In Greek they are called Galliget, Magalat, and Sakharin. Some people call us Magi, but it doesn't matter what they call us. We are part of the story on behalf of all the people on earth who do not come from the Holy Land." Elizabeth looked up at the angel Ephriel. "That's quite true," said the angel. "Of course, one would not tell lies, would one?" Melchior went on. "One would not be the king of the Orient unless one spoke the truth, would one? One would not be particularly wise either, only seeming wise." He was so funny when he talked that Elizabeth couldn't help laughing. He had more to say. "I am so happy that I often want to sing and dance, and I'm especially happy at Christmas time, for that's when Jesus was born." "That's enough," said Joshua, striking the stone with his shepherd's crook. "To Bethlehem, to Bethlehem." But Melchior spoke again. "We must greet the Christmas niece first. He lives just below there." They set off down the steep mountainside. As they ran, Elizabeth said, "Is it really true that we're going to go meet the Christmas niece?" Ephriel pointed down at the town clinging to the side of the mountain. They could only catch a glimpse of the Mediterranean in the background. "The time is 3:22. The town is Myra, and this is where Paul came when he was traveling to Rome to tell the capital of the Roman Empire about Jesus. He founded a Christian community in Myra, too." "I don't understand what that has to do with the Christmas niece." But the angel went on. 200 years after Paul came to Myra, a boy called Nicholas was born here. His parents were Christians, and when he was a grown man, Nicholas was elected Pope of Myra. In Myra there lived a girl who was very poor because her father had lost everything he owned. She wanted to get married, but it was quite impossible because she had no money for a dowry. Bishop Nicholas wanted to help the poor girl, but he knew the family was too proud to accept a gift. Perhaps he could put some money in the father's bank account. Yes, but this was a long time before such things as banks existed. Nicholas did something similar, though. He crept out during the night and threw a bag of gold coins through the family's open window. That way the young girl was able to marry after all. That was kind of him, but that wasn't the end of it. He thought it was so much fun to throw gifts through people's windows that he went on doing it. When he died, many legends about him were told. Later he came to be known as St. Nicholas. In English, they turned it into Santa Claus, and in Norwegian into the Christmas niece. The word niece comes from Nicholas, and so do the word Niels and Claus. Did he have a red suit and a long white beard and a red knitted cap? Wait and see, said Ephriel. The sun had not yet risen, and they stopped in front of a low church building in Myra, and as soon as they did, the door opened, and out strode a man with a long red cloak, a long white beard, and a red hat on his head. Around his neck he wore a large silver cross with a red stone in it. He almost looked like a Christmas niece, but Ephriel whispered in Elizabeth's ear that the time was 325 years after the birth of Jesus, and those were the clothes that bishops wore at the time. It is Bishop Nicholas of Myra, whispered the angel. Elizabeth had an idea. Does the name have anything to do with myrrh? You do well to ask, for myrrh was one of the 3 Christmas gifts to the Christ child. It's become usual to give gifts at Christmas because the gifts the 3 wise men brought to the Christ child, and because of Bishop Nicholas's generosity. In his arms, the man held 3 different caskets. He walked with firm steps toward the 3 kings of the Orient, bowed low, and offered each of them a casket. Caspar's casket was full of shining gold coins. In Balthazar's there was frankincense, and in Melchior's there was myrrh. We are on our way to Bethlehem, said Caspar. Bishop Nicholas laughed so that his beard shook. Ho, ho! So you must take a few gifts to the child in the manger. You absolutely must do that, mustn't you? Ho, ho! Since Elizabeth was standing in front of a real Christmas niece, she ran right up to him and felt his red cloak. He bent down and lifted her up with his arm and put her in his arm. She tugged on his beard to find out whether it was real, and it was. Why are you so kind? She asked. Well, the more you give away, the richer you become. And the more we keep for ourselves, the poorer we become. That's the mystery of generosity, neither more nor less. But it's the mystery of poverty, too. Ephriel clapped. Well spoken, Bishop. Bishop Nicholas continued. All those who collect treasures upon earth will be very poor one day, but those who have given away all they possess will never be poor. Besides, they have had so much fun that they have always rejoiced, for that's the greatest joy on earth. It is generosity. Maybe, but first we have to own something to give it away. At that, the good-natured bishop laughed so heartily that his whole body shook. Elizabeth almost became seasick as she sat on his arm. Not at all, he said, when he swallowed enough of his laughter so that there was room in his mouth for speaking as well. You don't need to own anything at all to feel generosity fizzing in your veins. A little smile is enough, or something you've made yourself. And with those words, he put Elizabeth down on the mosaic floor. Joshua thumped his shepherd's crook on the ground and said, To Bethlehem, to Bethlehem. And as they moved off, they could hear the bishop's laughter behind them. Ho, ho! Ho, ho! Mamma looked up from the paper and began laughing as well. It was infectious, and when Joachim burst out laughing, Papa just couldn't resist. So all 3 of them sat there chuckling. At last Mamma said, I think laughter is like the wildflowers. Both are part of the glory of heaven that have strayed down to earth. But it's very easy for that kind of thing to spill over. Before Mamma finished reading what was written on the piece of paper, Papa had brought out the historical atlas. The names are on the map, and Paul really did visit a little town called Myra when he was on his way from Jerusalem to Rome. Perhaps Elizabeth in the photo traveled the same way as Paul, perhaps because she went to Rome too. And she had a silver cross with a red stone in it, said Mamma. The Christmas niece did as well. Papa laughed, and then he went into the living room to get an encyclopedia. He came back reading. The Bishop of Myra was the very first Santa Claus. I must say, history is full of strange connections, said Mamma. It's as if the Christmas elves have been jumping up and down throughout the centuries. And that's the end of chapter 19. And here's Marley. And we both want to say we love you and good night.